Man, this product right here would have saved me so much time. I mean, a lot of time in my private and my instrument training. And it's a tabbed far aim. And not only would it have saved me time like tabbing it out myself and like, licking and sticking on the page and stuff like that, but really just even in the efficiency of the training. And so in this video, I want to tell you about how doing something like this, whether buying this particular product, I'll link it down in the description, I really, really like it, or doing it yourself, you don't need to buy this one to still do what I'm about to talk about, can really dramatically improve your training, both in efficiency and your proficiency. So what on earth is the FAR aim? Well, the FAR, the FAR, is the first half of this book, and it's the Federal Aviation Regulations. So, gosh, just the first half. To say there are a lot of regulations in aviation would be an understatement. And then the AIM is the Aeronautical Information Manual, and inside it says, this manual contains the fundamentals required in order to fly in the US. Now, for fundamentals, there sure are a lot of them. So it's not law per se, but the FAA does have a ton of info in here about procedures and things, and it's also referenced in the Airman Certification Standards for becoming a pilot. So while the AIM isn't regulatory in nature, it is very much still worth knowing. So this is obviously a lot of information. I mean, just look at it. So do we need to read all of it? Well, luckily the answer is no. Thank goodness. But what do we need to know? And I think there's two good ways to find that. One would be by looking at our pilot exams and working backwards. So let's take the private, for example. Remember that the exams for this include both a written test and then a practical test. And the practical test has two components. It's got the oral exam and then the actual flight exam, which usually happen at the same time. And so it's all kind of one, but there's two parts. Let's look at just the written requirements. And the FAA says on their website that for the private pilot test, the materials are based on section 61.105 of the FAA's rules. So let's turn there. You can start to see why having this tabbed out is already helpful because there's so many different things in here. Here is 61.105. Let's see what it says. So here it says about 13 different general requirements and topics, but one of them says you need to know the applicable Federal Aviation Regulations, the FARs, of this chapter that relate to private pilot privileges, limitations, and flight operations. And then another says use of the applicable portions of the AIM. So basically we know we need stuff from the FARs and from the AIM, which is pretty vague. And then for the oral and flight test, we have the ACS, or the Airman Certification Standards. This is a long document, but it covers everything you'll need to know and demonstrate, along with relevant references to the regulations and things. So basically, this document tells you what is going to be on the test, part of which is content from the FARs and part of which is content from the AIM. Now, if you're feeling like, gosh, Charlie, thanks a lot, that's still super vague, then good, you're following me. That is exactly my point. That is a lot of vague information to chase down. But the second route is a paragraph in a section at the beginning of this book that I absolutely love. It says applicants preparing for the FAA knowledge exams should have full understanding of the following applicable regulations and AIM paragraphs. And then they list it out by sport pilot, private pilot, instrument, etc. Did you know this existed? Because I certainly didn't. I'll be the first to admit. I totally glossed over this because you start opening, the FAR AIM and it's a bunch of nonsense and different things before you get to further nonsense of all the regulations and things. But I totally missed it. It says, hey, if you're getting your private, this is what you should study. Didn't even realize that. And so if you're wondering, hey, how did they decide what to tab in here for private or for instrument? It's from this list. And so everything you'll see in that for private is in green. Everything in there for instrument here is in red. And so it just makes it so much easier. They literally tell you what you should study, and I totally missed that. Now, I should mention that just reading these sections doesn't completely take the place of other training programs, be it in person or online ground school, because for one, you'll need an endorsement from an instructor to take the test and the check ride anyways. And secondly, maybe even more importantly, there's a lot of stuff in here that you need to know, but it doesn't actually teach you, like weight and balance and weather theory and stuff. So taking ground school is still absolutely necessary and super helpful, but if you're wanting to review, sometimes it's not that easy just to go back and watch full-length videos on a topic in your ground school. And so instead, having this list of suggested topics here in the FAR AIM is just awesome. Now, traditionally, people might just fold the corner of pages they need to know or the regs they keep forgetting, but really then you end up with a zombie FAR AIM. Guys, I was actually gonna film some B-roll here of like me actually creasing the pages and stuff, and my OCD, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to fold a page just to then fold it back and it's forever crease, and I'm kind of staring at it now that it's just, there's a gap. I couldn't do it, so you're just gonna have to use your imagination. Now, 17-year-old Charlie definitely did not tab his FAR AIM leading up to his check ride for his private, but 7 years later for my instrument, I did tab my own FAR AIM, but it was a DIY approach, and it literally took me hours over the course of several evenings, and there wasn't really a methodology to it. I was really just tabbing things that I tended to forget. it wasn't nearly as comprehensive as the one I'm holding here. And I think it's such a great starting place if you're doing your private, your instrument, commercial, or really even your CFI. And you can mix and match those too. They've got stuff like a private instrument combo. They've got pre-tabbed FAR aims for all of those scenarios where they tab out the FARs, but then they also put page markers in the aim. So basically, as you're reading through the aim, I mean, there's a ton of info, but it's clearly marked. There's a sticker on which one is on the suggested topic list at the front of the book. I've been getting to know the owner here in Texas, who's a good dude, and it's cool. They've got a local team of pilots that literally tab all these out together by hand anytime there's an order. And so when you click order on this website, you know that they're sitting down and they're doing this for you. So you're saving time and having someone else do the work. But I really think at their prices, it is easily worth just the time savings alone to have them do it. But they do sell the tabs individually if you do want to do it yourself. But most importantly, whether you buy this one or you do it yourself, having a tabbed FAR aim of some kind is going to really help you in a few important areas. First, I find that you can build up muscle memory going and finding, like if there's a regulation, you're always forgetting kind of oxygen requirements to different things. If you can get used to looking it up on the page, I have found that seeing the same place on the page where you're going to look up that regulation and you see your highlighting, you see your notes, that's so much more impressionable and memorable than just Googling it, where Google will just display it in the browser there for you, or you're looking at it on some random website. I find that that's harder for my brain to remember rather than having the same cue, the same resource that I'm going back to, and it looks the same every time. It's on the same part of the page. I don't have a photographic memory, but something about that makes things way more memorable to me rather than just Googling it on my phone. And so second, it gave me confidence on my instrument check ride to have the FAR aim there and showing it on the table, and it's obviously worn and well used, really just kind of told myself like, yes, I can do this. I deserve to be here. And while it probably didn't matter, it showed the examiner the same thing. And so, I mean, they can tell when you're prepared and when you know what you're talking about. I just think having the same worn FAR aim with me at the test brought a sense of familiarity that really just helped calm me down and give me confidence. But most importantly, having a tabbed FAR aim, it's going to boil down what you need to know from a universe of information down to an addressable amount of information. People often talk about how overwhelming their private can be, and it's because of this. It's because of the amount of information that they need to know. But having it all tabbed out will help you visualize, okay, it's not literally an ocean of information. There is a lot, but it is right in front of me and it's clear what I need to know. So I'll put a link down in the description of this exact product and where you can get it. I really like this particular one, but honestly, even if you go with the DIY approach, that is awesome too. I just think having a tabbed FAR aim of some kind is just going to help you in so many ways mentioned in this video. So if you have any questions about it, let me know in the comments. And more than anything, I hope that this supports you in your aviation journey.